Welcome to Lap 7, Skill 4. And talking about Skill 4, we're also going to talk about Skills 1 through 3, calculations on speed, and relationships between gears and shafts. Right now we have the motor, risers, pillow block bearings, shafts down here on the table, all collected together. And we're going to first start by assembling the system itself. Now we're going to use many of the tools that and skills that we've learned from previous laps in order to fulfill things such as a saw foot, leveling of shafts, leveling a motor, couplings, that sort of thing. What I'm going to concentrate here on are the Lap 7 specific skills of determining speeds, determining direction of rotations, and gear ratios. Very important. So in the overview here, we're going to start building this out. Now, as a system, the book says start with the motor and start building from shaft 1, 2, 3, and 4. In reality, you normally want to start your layoff in the middle and work your way out. Reason for that being is that it gets very complicated once you get several shafts together, tied together in a gear system. So in practice, for certain adjustments, but also just in building, the tendency is to start in the middle and work your way out, so you don't get so much tolerance built up from the one end to the other end. But it is okay to loosely put things together the way your lab manual says to do. And we can go ahead and do that, and we'll just loosely put in the bolts first and line things up, and then at this point we have all the shafts mounted, pillow blocks. Clamps are still hanging loose. The bolts I have not quite put finger tight from down below. I've got to be what I call snug. Snug means I can still move the blocks readily, move the shafts readily. Everything here is free spinning and able to slide shafts back and forth. In the assembly. And the next step we go through on a book at this point is now we go through leveling each and every shaft and level the motor. Before leveling the motor, of course, we do soft foot, check. Way back here on the motor, check the soft foot, check the level of the motor shaft, then check each of these shafts in turn for leveling. Once we've done that, the one critical height adjustment is between the motor and shaft 1. We'll go ahead and wait for that afterwards when we put the motor onto the assembly itself. We'll do that just before we put the Lovejoy coupling on, but for right now what we want to do is get the gear train here straight. Notice I have not put the pruning brake on here. I can, but in this particular lap, since we don't use the pruning brake, I've left it off here for purposes of clarity in the view of what we're doing here. So the next step for me is going to be mount the gears. And usually I mount them from the center gear, not the first gear, but the second and third gears I mount. Mesh, mount the fourth gear, then mount the first gear. So go ahead and pull those off as requested in your lab manual. Now we'll proceed to put on gear number 1 after all this has been leveled. And I still leave this able to rotate slightly. Key goes in the key seat. And gear, turn around, gear teeth out. Goes onto the shaft. And you proceed to do this so it pretty well matches the end. Gear 3, same thing. Key stock goes in the key seat, and you proceed to put gear 3 on. Once the gears are all mounted on the shafts, and they should go to about the end, this would be a good time now to start to lock down the shaft clamps. And for doing that, first off, align gears 1 and 3 with a straight edge off of these two gears. As far as location, making sure that all the gears can mate together. In the case of shaft 1, usually you have to have about this much clearance, maybe about a finger's width off this bracket. And that brings the rest of these over to as far as they can go. A driver for this is obviously how far these shafts can go to mesh, because everything else has to go and mesh with that. and that drives the locking of them. They may be a little difficult to turn. What we're looking for here, though, is to sit there and take a face. Basically, choose this face and line a straight edge off of both of them. So we can line that up to make sure that we're lined up off the gears. And we have right there alignment. That's good. That makes a good place to lock this down with. So at this point, now we can go ahead and lock down the shaft brackets.